he had nothing left. He was completely pot dead. That was it. I mean, at that point, I could have got my nephew on him. My nephew probably could have strangled him. When you get that gas and your lungs are that on fire, you're helpless. I don't care who you are. You're completely helpless. Wow, what a weekend, huh? I mean, we had a UFC card that, man, I mean, I could not have been on the wrong side of some of these things more than I was. I mean, it was so unpredictable, so chaotic and volatile. Just one of those cards. It was one of those cards where when you look at it from first take, you could kind of get the vibe. You know, you get the vibe that something, is looming in the waters there. It's not that good of a card. And sure enough, man, this thing just took twists and turns everywhere. I had some bad reads. I think everybody on this night had a lot of bad reads. I mean, if you want to do a little soft opening of the actual card itself, I mean, the Pavlovich and Blades fight, not too much to talk about there. It didn't last that long. The thing about that fight that confused me a little bit, and, you see people on Twitter blaming Blades' camp, and you really, really can't do that, and here's why. Because the coaches and the team can only lead a horse to water. They can't push their head in a pond and drink it. Now, we all know that the one X factor in this fight is Curtis Blades. With his wrestling, he did not implore it once. I mean, this guy did not attempt to wrestle or take a shot one time. He attempted like a panic shot during a round. But all in all, the guy just tried to stand and trade. Was not expecting that at all. I thought at least if he was going to get caught, he was probably going to get caught coming in. Wasn't the case. He decided to stand and slang and bang with Pavlovich and paid the ultimate cost. Now Pavlovich has a lot of eyes on him. People are looking at this guy. This guy's just finishing fights in the first round. His power seems to be ridiculous. We still don't know about the well-rounded part of his game. We haven't seen enough of it yet. We haven't had to see enough of it yet. Credit to him. That was a fight that I kind of was on the wrong side of. Like I said, I thought Blades would rather wrestle. Tavares and Bruno Silva, good fight. The Bobby Green and Jared Gordon fight was interesting because if you look at that fight, and I'm currently blocked from Chris Curtis, so I'm sure that he was having a field day with this. But the head clash. I agree. I agree that it should have been a no contest. I don't think that fight should have been a knockout. I understand why Bobby Green was upset. He lost a lot of money. You're obviously training for a fight. It was incidental. It wasn't like he just went and led with his head. Well, he did lead with his head, but it's not like he was looking to fight dirty. But also on the flip side of that, you understand Jared Gordon also did train for this fight as well. You know what I mean? And to be taken out by a headbutt, you got to understand his position. It should have been a no contest. I think that was the right call. Chris Curtis probably was having a field day on Twitter. How come I wasn't a no contest? This is why we're appealing it. This and that, blah, blah, blah. The thing that resonated in this fight for me was during the commentating, you saw a lot of people talking about what happened with Paul Felder. Paul Felder was kind of very passionate, and he was very biased towards Jared Gordon. Now, mind you, he's friends with Jared Gordon. I understand that. If Bush was in there fighting, and Bush isn't with us today, he's actually away, so this is just me today. But if Bush was in there, I would do the same thing. I would literally do the same thing. I would feel the same way. But you do got to kind of draw that gray line, that gray area, understand that you are doing a job, and you can't be biased. You got to call the fight square. Not that he wasn't calling the fight square, but he did kind of show a little bit too much enthusiasm where somebody in his ear had to tell him to calm down, and he actually repeated it on the air. He's like, I am calm. But I do think that was the right call there. Other than that, there were some good fights. You had Jeremiah Wells on there, and Semmelsberger. That was a good fight. Giagos had a great showing. The DeMont and Cara Rosa fight was good. Usman and Tafa I could have did without. It was an okay card, but it was just very odd. It was a very, very odd card. Before we get to the rest, subscribe to the channel, comment below on if you agree with my takes on this card coming up or not. Also, you can find us at the MadLabMMA.com. We give everything from soup to nuts, every breakdown from every UFC fights, fighter metrics, DFS leans, our favorite fights on the board. I mean, everything you need for DraftKings and for whatever you want to utilize them for, wagering or whatnot. So another thing that went on this weekend was obviously we had Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, and another controversy swarmed around. He could have got up. He threw the fight. He took a dive. You guys got to, one thing I've noticed with social media and even content providers, and that's where the buck kind of has to stop, right? Like when you have content providers that are yelling conspiracy or yelling the fix is in and this took a dive and that took a dive, every chance they get, people start following suit. And, the question I would ask these people, like when a football game is constantly fixed or a basketball game is constantly fixed or a baseball game is constantly fixed or an MMA or boxing, if all these things are constantly fixed and people are constantly taking dives, and my question for them that you should be asking these people, then why are you covering the sport? Or why are you talking? Or why are you watching? Why are you watching predetermined sports? If everything is fixed and everything is a conspiracy and everything has an angle to it, then that should be your question to them. Why are you covering it? Why are you talking about it? Why are you watching it? You might as well just watch WWE at that point, because that's all predetermined. So if everything is kind of predetermined and there's a conspiracy around it and this one took a dive, why would you even take the chance of spending your time covering it and talking about it? So that would be my question for them. That was not a dive. That was not a fix. Could he have gotten up after he's gotten knocked down? Maybe he could have got up. Maybe. I'm not going to say he could or he couldn't. All I'm going to tell you is that was a shot, that liver shot. If you've never been hit in the liver, you have no idea. It's a delayed reaction. It's not like when you get hit upstairs and it's your eyes roll back as you're going down and you're out on the way down. It's not like that. It's a delayed reaction. Your body kind of just starts wondering what happened, and then it locks. And once it locks, you have no control over it. You're mentally there. You're obviously in pain, but you can't do anything. Your body just locks. So who's to say that? Yeah, maybe he wanted to get up. Maybe he thought, I'm ready to get up, but his body just wouldn't allow him to get up. That's one conclusion. It could be. Another conclusion is maybe he just thought that, listen, if I take one more shot, it's going to be done anyway. So I'm going to stay on the knee. So I don't know, but did he take a dive? Absolutely not. Was it fixed? Absolutely not. Like, you guys got to stop getting out of this habit of listening to people and thinking that everything is a conspiracy and everything is fixed. Is there collusion? Is there, the black matter in sports? Absolutely, 1,000%. I'm not going to deny that. I've seen it in boxing numerous times. I've seen it in MMA numerous times where things are extremely questionable. I mean, off the top of my head, we could talk about Triple G and Canelo Alvarez, that one fight that they fought. It was a clear Triple G win, and they gave it to Canelo. So that's a situation right there where you could say collusion in boxing, but not everything is fixed. Not everything is it's just not, it's not the way it is. There's a very small amount of sports that, yes, there could be some money involved. There could be some players involved. But when I go on Twitter and like every game and every fight and every thing that happens is a fix, or the ref wants this, or the judges want this, like, come on, let's we got to stop with this. Why are you spending your hard-earned time and money buying these fights, wagering on them, playing DFS, whatever you're doing to involving yourself in these fights? Why are you doing it if all sports are fixed? I would call you a moron at that point, because that would basically be me saying, okay, hold on a second. You're going to tell me that you're going to put action on a WWE match that's predetermined? Like, why would you do that? That's basically what you're saying. If everything is fixed and everything has collusion in it, that's basically what you're doing. So it's kind of foolish, but it's not to say there's not collusion and there's not black matter in sports. There are, but like, this has to stop with every outlet and every person thinking that everything that happens, every penalty, every eye poke, every everything has to do with a conspiracy. It's not the case. All right, so we have another card before UFC 288, which is going to be a banger of the card. That is going to be on May 6th. We are going to have a huge coverage for that. A lot of content going to be going into that. And obviously, as you know, when you have these cards that are huge, usually the card before kind of lacks a little bit. This lacks a lot. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to tell you guys that this is a card that you must watch. Like, this is a must-watch card. It's not. This is a card that if you're a big fight fan and it's Saturday and you're going to watch the fights, awesome. Enjoy it. but it's not a card where I'm going to be saying to myself, well, I gotta cancel plans for this thing. It's just not the case. Main event's good. Main event's intriguing. Excuse me. I'm a little sick. Main event's intriguing. Song Yadong, Ricky Simón. We're going to jump into it right with that. Obviously, I have no clock behind me because Anthony's not here. But these really aren't going to take that long to break down. So when you look at this fight, I mean, this is a fight that was supposed to happen and last week, and it obviously didn't happen. They ended up moving it to the main event of this week. When you look at these fighters, first of all, you look at Ricky Simón, right? You look at this guy, and this guy is really, by all stretch of the means, he is like just a wrestling machine. Like, this guy knows what he's good at. He knows where to go. He knows what his ace in the hole is, and he's not going to stray from that in any way, shape, or form. If it's not broke, he's not going to fix it. He's been stopped a couple times. I mean, he's been beaten a couple times. He was stopped by Uriah Faber. He was beaten by Rob Font. But this is a guy who ultimately, and honestly, the Merab Davishvili fight, where that obviously probably should have went Davishvili's way, but if you didn't watch that fight, you could watch it and make an assessment for yourself. But outside of that, after his fight with Rob Font, I mean, he beat Ray Borg, Perillo, Kelleher, Asuncao, and the big one was Jack Shore. He subbed Jack Shore. I didn't see that coming. So, I mean, if you look at this guy's work, I mean, 2, 6, 7, 7, 6. I mean, this guy is just like a takedown machine, a pressure machine. That's his blueprint. So if that's the blueprint that you guys like, and that's the blueprint on the other side of the spectrum that this person can't stop, then you obviously know which way you're going. Now you look at a guy like Song Yadong, alpha male guy, very young kid. Before his loss, this is the crazy thing about MMA. Before his loss to Sandhagen, people were saying that he was going to be like the next great Asian marking champion, right? So, he beat Casey Kenny, he beat Julio Arce, he beat Marlon Moraes in spectacular fashion, 2 of the 3 of them. Now he comes back, he fights Corey Sandhagen, who's an absolute dog, let's face it, right? And he loses to Sandhagen, he gets knocked out in the 4th round. Didn't look tremendous in that fight. Had a good account of himself, but did not look tremendous. So now you're saying to yourself, well, people are saying, not me, people are saying, well, Ricky Simón should run through this guy and with his wrestling and stuff like that. But what happened to the people who thought before he lost to a very good Corey Sandhagen that Song Yadong was going to be this new Asian market sensation? I think people are forgetting that this kid is still extremely young. I mean, this kid was born in 97. I was in college. Like, this kid was born in 97. He's extremely young. He's got the right tools around him to not be the wrestler that Ricky Simón is, but he's got the tools in place around him to at least teach him the defensive nullify some of these things. Instead, he's a tremendous athlete. He's got very good power. He's extremely genetically gifted, and he's only going to graduate more. He's only going to learn more. He's only going to get better. The thing with this fight is you got to look at momentum as well. You got to look at Ricky Simón. You look at Ricky Simón, he's on a 5-fight win streak. He's got serious momentum in his corner. And then you look at Song Yadong, he's got a 1-fight losing streak after a 3-fight win streak. So it's really, how is he going to bounce back? Like, I always look at that. How is he, as a young man, going to bounce back? How is he going to, move his game along? How is he going to progress? Or is he going to come in a little gun shy saying, I don't want to lose 2 in a row? When he lost to Collar Phillips, he came back, he strung 3 in a row. Now he's up. He loses to Corey Sandhagen. Now he's got a really tough task ahead of him. When you look at both of these guys, he's the type of kid that he's got to stay patient in this fight. Ricky Simón is not a patient fighter. He's got to stay patient in this fight. And there's a lot of there's a lot of pause for me to pick Yadong in this fight, just for the mere fact that once Ricky Simón starts tying his wrestling together, once he starts frustrating you, you tend to fight out of suit. And what I mean by fighting out of suit is you fight out of character. You start doing things that you weren't expecting to do. You start doing things out of your character, off of your blueprint, because you don't got a choice at that point anymore. The things just aren't going. He's not allowing things to go the way you wanted them to go, or the way you expected them to go. So now what do? You go to plan B, and plan B is kind of just let him dictate the pace and try to nullify, at that point. That's the dangers for Yadong. However, there are dangers for Ricky Simón. Ricky Simón can get a little reckless. Ricky Simón can take a shot, and Yadong can tag him. Yadong's got a lot of power. Now, what does that do? That'll freeze Ricky Simón a little bit. He's not going to be so insistent on taking a shot. So it's basically, for this fight, for me, it's statement first. That's going to set the tone of this fight. Statement first. Who's going to set that statement first? Is Ricky Simón going to come right in and take a shot and take him down and kind of take Yadong's will a little bit and say, man, I can't stop this dude's takedowns. Like, I can't stop this guy's pressure. Or is Ricky Simón going to take a shot and Yadong's going to tag him with something, and then Simon's going to say, well, now I know that I gotta be very mindful, and I gotta really set these up before I shoot, because he's ready and he's going to tag me with something. So I think that the tone of the fight is going to be set right out of the gate. It's who's going to get something off first. I'm very hesitant to make this pick. I would not put any onus into it. Like I said, I don't think there's any right and wrong answer here. Both of their styles are very different in so many different ways, but each of their pros are the other person's cons in a way. So I'm going to go Song Yadong here. I think that people are underselling him a little bit. I think because of his loss with Corey Sandhagen, I think a lot of people tend to use the DraftKings settings too with how they gauge a fighter. You'll see a guy who, like Ricky Simón, who could blow the cover off the ball in something like DraftKings, and he's getting all these takedowns, and this is what we want. This is what we need. This is what we yearn for. But you forget also that there is a fight to be fought, and it's not all about points, and it's not all about significant strikes, and it's not all about your DraftKings score. There is a fight that has to be fought, an actual fight. Before DraftKings and all that stuff, there was still fights that had to be fought. So I think sometimes people get blinded by the price tags on a DraftKings thing, or they get blinded by, oh my God, look at his score. And they get blinded by all that stuff. So automatically, by default, they're going to go that way and say, well, this guy has scored 100-plus points X amount of times. He's got to be good. It doesn't work like that. It works by matchups. And I just think Yadong is athletic enough to kind of stay the course, and not get lost in translation with the wrestling. I can't see Ricky Simón having this full-blown wrestling clinic on him, like completely full-blown. I think Yadong's going to have his spots. I think Yadong is going to be able to do certain things to Ricky Simón, and vice versa. I think Ricky Simon's going to be able to do things to him as well. I just think that I think people are underselling Yadong a little bit here. I think every fight he's going to graduate and he's going to get better, where we know what Ricky Simón is. Like, we know what he is. We don't fully know what Yadong is and what he's capable of yet, because he's still kind of growing. So I'm going to go with Yadong here slightly. But like I said, there is no right or wrong answer here. If you guys pick Ricky Simón, you guys probably have clear and valid reasons to do so. Next fight, you got Barboza versus Chuck. This fight is another fight where, like, if you look at the way the matchmakers matchmake these things, it's almost like they know what they want, right? Outside the Yadong and Simón fight. But if you look at this whole main card, well, the next two fights, the matchups clearly go to one guy's favor. When you go to Chuck, you're looking at a really reckless striker. The guy likes to throw hands. He likes to throw them early. He's kind of a kill or be killed kind of guy. And then on the other side, you have a guy in Barboza who literally, if you get too reckless on him and you overreach and you give him an opportunity, he's going to take your back and he's going to ride you out the whole round. So it's, what do you trust more? Do you trust that Michel's going to be able to clip him early? Do you believe that he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns? Do you think he's going to have the gas tank to throw heavy and hard for 3 rounds until he does catch Barboza? Or do you trust Barboza being able to secure at least one takedown, taking his back, using his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and either riding him for a round like he has been known to do, or snatch up a submission? So, that's basically where this fight stands. And it's, if you think about the matchup, it's kind of weird. Like, the next two fights are kind of landscape like that. Now, when you look at Barboza, obviously, look at him. I mean, Muradov, Petrosian, Murray, Jeffrey. I mean, he's on a 5-fight win streak. And then you got Chuck, who, he beat Cody Brundage, who's ultimately a wrestler. He beat Sam Alvey over the hill, lost to Jacoby. Gamzatov, Bukowski. So he's beaten some good guys, and he's beaten some well-rounded guys. I'm not just saying that he's just this striker. But if you look at the overall prowess of this fight, that's basically what it is. I mean, he's got a 43% takedown defense. where Baralo's takedown accuracy is 75%. That doesn't really mesh that well. You got Baralo going for a little bit over 2 takedowns a fight. That's really all he needs in this fight, where you know that Michel's not even going for a 1. He's not even going to try to attempt a takedown. Both of these guys are southpaws that make it, that take the trickiness out of it. Baralo's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So when you look at this, if this stays on the feet, if there's by some chance that Oleinik is able to, defer to the takedowns and just kind of elude them and stay on the feet, then absolutely. I mean, this dude is always live with his hands. I just don't see it happening. I just think eventually in the first round, Baralo's going to end up taking this guy down, and he's either going to, body triangle, take his back, ride him out, win the round, and it's going to be business as usual. It's just going to be that kind of fight. Is he going to sub him? He could sub him. Is he going to ride him to the cards in a boring fight? That can happen too. But I just don't think that he's not going to be able to get this to the ground. And when he gets this to the ground, it's his world. So it really depends on how soon does he get this to the ground. Is he going to get it to the ground right away? Is he going to try to play footsie with him on the feet for a little while and maybe drop around? Or is he just going to get to work? The only issue I have with him is he going to get tagged on the way in? Outside of that, I really am expecting him to win this fight either by submission or by like a 30-27 grappling fest. Next fight, Rodolfo Vieira versus Cody Brundage. Now, this is another fight where, Cody Brundage's strength is playing into the hands of one of the best grapplers in MMA. When you're looking at a guy like Cody Brundage, this is a guy who averages 3 takedowns a fight. This is where he makes his money. He wants to take you to the ground. He wants to make it grindy. He wants to make it dirty. Well, you're not going to do that with somebody like Rodolfo Vieira, who also wants to take this to the ground. But when it is on the ground, the guy's going to sub you. I mean, the guy's going to sub you. The only difference in this fight, the scary thing about this fight with Rodolfo Vieira is this. I know I'm sounding hypocritical. I know I'm sounding hypocritical because you're saying to me, but Lab, hold on a second. You're saying his grappling so good and it's not, but he got submitted by a purple belt in Fluffy Hernandez. I understand that. That's my problem with him. His conditioning is horrendous. I mean, that was an embarrassment that he got submitted by Fluffy Hernandez. Get knocked out by Fluffy Hernandez, lose on the cards by Fluffy Hernandez, but there is no way that a decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player like Rodolfo Vieira should be getting submitted in an MMA cage by Fluffy Hernandez. He had nothing left. He was completely pot dead. That was it. I mean, at that point, I could have got my nephew on him. My nephew probably could have strangled him. When you get that gas and your lungs are that on fire, you're helpless. I don't care who you are. You're completely helpless. So, no excuse. He lost the fight. The guy's conditioning is just not good. But if he does get this fight to the ground, and this is a guy in Brundage who's probably going to look to take it there. And if he doesn't look to take it there, well, you know what? Rodolfo Vieira is going to look to take it there because the guy averages more takedowns in a fight than Brundage does. He's got 3.9. Brundage's got 3.2. I think he's going to be welcomed in the takedown from Brundage, even though he's got 100% takedown defense. Why does he have 100% takedown defense? Because nobody attempts to take him down. They don't want to take him down. They want nothing to do with the ground on this guy. It has nothing to do with this guy is literally getting shot on and he's shucking you off. Nobody's shooting on him. That's why he's got 100% takedown defense. Brundage has got a 68% takedown defense, and his takedown accuracy is only 46%. So it's almost like I dare you to try taking me down. Like I dare you to try taking me down. Will he? I don't know. Will it stay on the feet? I think Cody Brundage's best shot is to keep the standing, obviously. Test his gas tank, tag him a couple times, hurt him, because the more you hurt him, the more that gas tank starts dropping, that energy bar starts dropping. You don't want to get into these crazy grappling exchanges with him. You cannot be that confident in your wrestling that you could take Rodolfo Vieira to the ground, lay on top of him, smother him, and think that he's not going to maybe grab a leg, or he's not going to be able to butterfly sweep you, or he's not going to be able to do something, and then you're going to be in a situation that's extremely disadvantageous, and you're not going to know what to do with it. So do you have that confidence? I don't. I wouldn't. I would stand and trade with this guy and test his chin and test his gas tank. I don't think it's going to happen. I think eventually these guys are going to hit the floor. I think eventually Rodolfo Vieira is going to sub him. And like I said, buyer beware, though, because of his gas tank. But, I mean, when you look at this matchup, it's literally that's the way this fight should play out. Cody Brundage is going to want to wrestle, but he's not going to wrestle most likely because his ace is Rodolfo Vieira's like heavy ace. And then you're going to plan B, which Cody Brundage on the feet. Then Rodolfo Vieira is going to say, well, I'm going to take you into my world then. I'm going to take you into my world then, and if you're not going to take me down, I'm going to take you down. So this fight's going to end up on the floor. The issue I have and the question I have is Rodolfo Vieira going to have enough gas in the tank if it goes into the third round and he doesn't get that submission? Is Brundage going to be able to maybe come back and with that gritty performance and pull something off? So that's where you got to be careful. But Rodolfo Vieira by submission is my pick. Next fight, got Julian Rosa and Fernando Padilla. You know, there's really not much I want to say about this fight. Like Julian Rosa, outside of his loss to Alex Caceres, like this guy, I mean, he was impressive. I mean, he beat Dawodu, he beat Peterson, he beat Jourdain. Okay, he lost to Choi, but the guy was fighting so well. And the last person you would expect to knock him out is Alex Caceres. I think that was like Alex Caceres' like first knockout in like forever. So I look at that fight like, yeah, it's a loss, but it was almost like, to me, like a blip in the radar, you know, if that makes any sense to you. He's fighting Fernando Padilla, who is a up-and-coming guy. No issues with him, coming from Fury FC. Decent fighter. You know, both of these guys are pretty much carbon copies of each other when it comes to dimensions, except for Rosa's the southpaw. I think this is just a fight of just veteranship. Like Rosa's been there. I've seen Padilla's record. I've seen his, you know, the 14-4 record with the fighters he's faced. They're just not on the level of a Rosa. Rosa's been there. Rosa's been in them wars. He's been cut. He's been battered. He's had the crowds against him. He's had the crowds for him. He's been under the spotlights. He's been through all these elements. He's extremely well-rounded. Where Padilla, in the beginning of his career, early on, this guy was snatching up subs and stuff like that. Then he kind of like balanced it out, and he was, you know, accumulating some knockouts. So now he's a little bit more even. But I just don't think that he's better than Julian Rosa anywhere. I mean, outside of maybe surprising him, not having not much film to watch on him, it's just a fight that Julian Rosa really should win. You know, he really should win. I think Julian Rosa is good for the UFC as well. I think he's good. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's an exciting fighter. Anytime he fights, you know it's going to be a fun fight at least. Does Fernando Padilla have a shot? Of course he does. He wouldn't be in there if he didn't. But just matchup-wise, from what I see, I think Julian Rosa kind of got him everywhere here. So I'm going Julian Rosa. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a finish here, but I'll say Julian Rosa by decision. Next fight, first fight on the main card, the Lima versus Costa. Also, guys, there is a couple fights that are canceled. I know that the Natan Levy fight, as of now, from what I hear, is off the board. I think they're trying to find him a new opponent. Also, there is another guy who is off this card. I believe it's Lusa. Let me see. Yeah, it's Andre Lusa. He's off the card against Josh Quinlan, but I think they put Josh Quinlan on a new fight with Trey Waters. So just keep your eyes on those for those of you that do play DraftKings and such like that. Heavyweight fight, guys. I mean, what are we really going to say about it? You know, what are we really going to say about a heavyweight fight? Both of these guys, they match up fairly well. I mean, De Lima is the smaller guy in weight when you look at him, but heavyweights, De Lima hits with a ton of power. Brutal leg kicks. The crazy thing about De Lima is he's actually not a bad fighter. He's a pretty good fighter. Beat Arlovsky, lost to Ivanov. A lot of people lose to Ivanov. Beat Rothwell, beat Maurice Green, lost to Romanov, the ghost of Romanov, who I don't even know who the hell he is anymore after that fight. He actually did quit in that fight. But he's actually a pretty good fighter. He's pretty athletic for his size. He's got nasty leg kicks. He's got good power. He's fun. He goes for the knockouts. He's a fun fighter. Then you got Costa, who's not coming in 9-0, beat Sherman, beat Vandera, beat Suzar. Like, these guys are going to come and they're going to throw. I mean, if you look at the output of both men, if you're going by numbers, you're looking at 7.8 for Costa. You're looking at 3.57 for De Lima. I don't go by that. I don't go by those numbers because those are very skewed. Because here's why: you can have a guy like Costa. Okay, say those numbers are skewed into 3 rounds, 3-round fights. Maybe he went 3-3-3-3, and then you got De Lima that's 1-1-1-1. those numbers are skewed. Of course, you're going to have guys on the other side. So you got to be very careful when you look at the strikes landed per minute. It's all basically on sample size. So when people jump into these numbers, they're good to look at if there's longevity involved. But you got to remember, Lima's been in the UFC longer as well. He's got more fights. That average is gonna be altered a little bit. Other than that, they're kind of tight to the bone. I mean, 54% striking accuracy, 50% striking accuracy, 53% defense, 59% defense. De Lima is definitely more susceptible to shooting for a takedown. I don't know. I just think he's the more athletic fighter here. I think if his cardio does hold up, which has been an issue for him, if his cardio does hold up, he should get this one done. I don't think everybody holds their O forever, unless you're somebody like Khabib. So I think Acosta loses his O in this fight. I'm going to go Marcos Rogerio de Lima by knockout. And that is it for the main card. Like I said, not a good main card, not a fun main card. There wasn't much detail really to break down on this card. There's no need for you to like really just dive in and go into these rabbit holes with this card in any way, shape, or form. And last but not least, this is Christine Showdown's dog pick of the week. Some good spots on the prelims and stuff like that, but as far as the card overall, this is just a card that they're kind of throwing at us. I mean, look at the rest of it. Martin Bidet, Jay Collier, Nathan Levy, and Pete Rodriguez. That fight's off. I don't know what they're doing with that yet. Cody Duran and Charles Johnson, Quinlan Waters, Stephanie Egger, Brian Kelleher, Journey Newsom. I mean, it's just not a good card. Let's call it what it is. It's not a good card. But the following week, you got Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo, Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns, Jessica Andrade, Zianon, Evelev, Bryce Mitchell, Kron Gracie, Charles Jourdain, Drew Dober, Frivola, Njoku, Clark, Williams, but I mean, that's Jandaroba Rodriguez. Oh, is that canceled? No, that's not canceled. Early prelims on that one. I mean, it's Phil Hawes, Holmes. So many good fights. Nate Maness, like so many good fights on that card. You have no idea the content that we're going to be spitting out for that. So go to the MadLabMMA.com. Go check us out over there. If not this week, obviously, because the card's not good, definitely next week you're going to want to check out our content for that. So this is MadLab signing off for myself and Bush, and I'll see you next week.